Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. It is Tuesday the 12th of August. Thank you for joining me. Polar air is around the country this week, but as we go into the weekend, slightly milder northerly winds return, especially with the overnight temperatures. However, next week, a polar blast that we first forecast a week or so ago, at least highlighted what the computer modelling was suggesting. That is getting a little better organised now, and so we've got the latest on how low that snow might go around Tuesday of next week. But let's kick off with the Tuesday this week. Satellite imagery showing the big high that is rolling in towards the South Island. That's why we've got plenty of frosts coming up over the next few days. Low pressure to the north of us, and we've got a fair bit of cloud just north of New Zealand, a few thunderstorms out at sea. We've also got this southerly flow right in across the eastern side of the country. It's a little hard to see, but there's a plenty of cloudy weather along the east coast, especially around Canterbury. In fact, this is the Canterbury rain radar this morning, another wet day as the southerlies blow in these showers right across Canterbury. And next week, when we start to see snow in the mountains, some of the long-range modelling suggests it could be snowing up in the mountains for a number of days across next week. Not low down on the low levels, but higher up. So we're monitoring that as well as winter weather really does peak around the country at the moment. Here is the air pressure situation. The low to the north quite clear, the high the most powerful feature, and also connecting to other high pressure zones around Australia. But of course, we've still got the southerly coming through tonight. A few showers still coming through Cook Strait, as we've also seen today. And as we go through the next 24 hours, the high moves in. Most of those eastern showers in the South Island should start to clear away. So frosty weather returns as we go into Wednesday morning, perhaps more so now to the eastern coastline. The North Island, frosts are a little more patchy because you got a bit of wind around, a little bit of cloud around, and it only has to add a degree or two and suddenly the frost become borderline. That's pretty much what you're seeing here, but it will be a cold morning right across the country. Here on Thursday, those frosts in the North Island expand a little further as the high pressure system comes in and those winds and clouds start to break apart. Noon Wednesday, so the polar line, that is very obvious at the moment, right up to the far north. Low pressure to the northeast of the country, not a concern for us, although someone mentioned yesterday might be producing a few swells for the surfers. But high pressure is really in charge. So you see those showers clear away from Canterbury. They still linger around the eastern North Island with that easterly wind or east to southeast wind up around the Bay of Islands where there may also be a couple of showers. But for the most part, the high is in charge. That's why the frosty weather expands. And it does so on Thursday as well. Still got a couple of showers around the North Island, a little bit of cloud here and there, especially in the coastal zones. Further inland, where the winds are lighter and the skies are clearer, that's where the frosts are likely. Note the westerly winds developing here in the very lower part of the country. Also, around Tasmania and the southeast side of Australia, the polar air line pushed right down. Sounds like a plane. The polar airflow pushed right down over the Southern Ocean. And so that is also showing a warmer change that is on its way towards us. And so on Friday, for the first time in about a week, the polar air flow or line, depending on how you want to call it, that is moving away from us. So it is still going to be cold with the high pressure around, light winds, the usual stuff. But it's not quite as cold. And those of you in the north of the country may notice that the most, as well as those of you in the very south where you got that west to northwest wind developing. Also to the north, once again, another tropical / subtropical low pressure zone forming. But because we've got high pressure around us, for now that is well away from us. So as we go through to the weekend, as I say, slightly milder this weekend, northeasterly winds. Now anyone who knows New Zealand knows that an easterly at this time of the year, it's not usually warm. So it's not going to be shorts and t-shirt weather for everybody. Some tough people out there will be like that. Northeasterly winds coming through, so still a little bit cold, but that will lift up your overnight temperatures. So you will feel the warmth at nighttime more so than you have in the last week. Same story in the South Island, while there's a little bit of cold air on parts of Fiordland, Southwestland. Norwest winds are picking up. So frosts become less likely on Saturday around New Zealand. Notice what's happening in Australia here on Sunday. Big wintry change. Snow forecast to just 800 metres or maybe lower in some parts of Australia. So that is on its way towards us. But before it arrives, northerly winds, northwesterly winds. We do see a couple of showers. But I think this weekend, some of you might feel kind of spring in the air as the temperatures start to go up. The sun comes out a bit. Monday of next week, though, things change. So wintry outbreak in Australia going right up to Queensland. On the New Zealand side, Low pressure moving in from the Tasman Sea, some heavy rain around. It doesn't look overly widespread, but you do see some rain with a few heavy falls in the mix. But I think it's Tuesday that's the day we're more interested in. Now, about a week ago, or maybe longer, we showed you the first glimpse of this because a few people were asking us about it. They could see it in the long-range models. The long-range model that we showed you initially, based on what we're seeing here now for next Tuesday, is looking remarkably similar. The only difference is, in that original one, there wasn't low pressure out to the west, it was all out to the east in quite a stormy system there. This one's got it broken apart into two centres. So that's some good news, but this is a wintry change coming through, and some of the estimates we're seeing at the moment shows snow around Southland and Otago getting down to about 200 metres. That's settling at 200 metres. With a whole week to go, can't lock that in, but it's a heads up for farmers because not only is it going to be wet and cold, with some snow around, but even if the snow level starts to lift up over the coming days after this, you're then going to have wind chill around, and for newborn lambs and calves, while we're only very early in the season, that could still be an issue, so that's worth monitoring. The final map here, this is a very pixelated map, so it doesn't take into consideration all the mountaintops and the little valleys and things like that, but it is a good product to sort of see where the snow and the rain is falling. So remember what I just said, above 100 or 200 metres is the snow. Snow is in blue, so that is all along the Southern Alps, but also the hills and ranges of Southland, Otago, Stewart Island. We may also see around the foothills of Canterbury getting a dusting of snow as we go through Tuesday. Looks like rain showers, though, further out across the plains. So it's a good kind of glance at what might be happening a week from now. To see the blue all over the place like that certainly shows it as a cold change, but we're too far out to lock in just how low down it gets. But like I say, for farmers and those of you with newborn lambs, newborn livestock, you know, whether or not this is perfectly granular doesn't really matter because it's about the wind chill and the dampness. And so this is a bleak forecast, but here's a positive note for you. High pressure just off the screen. That's trying to push in. So while it is unsettled around New Zealand next week, there is some high pressure waiting in the wings. That's all from me. I'll be back again tomorrow, Wednesday, as we take another look at how this is shaping up for next week. I'll see you then.